I think you may have more investment into her voice
I
than
do.
most.
I won't deny that. In fact, we'll just say it outright. I'm not even going to do what they tell me to do first. Can we actually interact with this? Whoa, this is a very weird...
Bang.
Can I use it? I guess not. That's sad.
To all the League of Legends players out there, we may come off as like massive new. We've
Well,
never played
This isn't
League.
anything even like the game.
No, but the mechanics may be similar.
No, it's not, from what I understand.
Mushroom mayhem. Wonder how rusty I am.
Oh, okay, so you can play some of the games, just not all of them. Oh, okay. Is this it? Oh. I'm not very good at this.
So I said I was wasting time by playing this. No one's left to beat my high score now.
I've absolutely flung into the deep end. Whoa.
The deep end of what?
I'm just saying we skipped the intro cutscene because it didn't realize it was going to start immediately.
Yeah.
So it should come as no surprise that I'm doing this of all things, if only because I'm not done yet. I can't let go. I just like the fact that they did this at all. Like, this is just what you do when you actually care. Just like, hey, let's make a little tie-in thing for the show we're making. It's just, a bit of fun. What does the log do? Oh, we can literally replay all the voice lines again? Yeah, I admit I would have liked the other voice, just because it's more...
Just because you...
What? Because I hear it in my dreams? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, you said it, not me.
What is this? Well, might as well get into it. This is coping, everyone.
Is that what it is?
That basically is what it is. Certainly what I'm doing. I actually have... I feel a little bit bad for throwing you in so far in the deep end, because if I had tried to do this last week when I first watched the last act, I'd have not been okay. So I'm trusting that I was basically just thinking, yeah, you'll be fine, apparently.
I have more emotional acuity than you.
You're more seasoned in these things. I had to spend about 3 days sort of just coping. I want to click on more stuff. I don't want to do it yet because I don't want it to be over.
This is the way that I played through
Guy gets
the...
outsmarted by a bunch of kids and still thinks he's the next Silco. Grade A delusional.
I don't know who that's in reference to.
Kids outsmarted
Oh,
by
this
a
is-
bunch of
that's-
kids.
This is the other chem guys.
Oh,
Since it is a
she's
ti-
making fun of the what's his name?
Yes, since it is a tie-in, there's a part of it that feels like they should have used the same voices. Or voice. I don't know who all appears in these.
I think I'm going to start a drinking game on how many times you mentioned the voice. Now you're
She's
upset about
great
it.
is all I'm saying. It's not my fault you don't have a heart.
I have a heart. I just don't keep it.
I just
in
don't
my
use it.
I don't keep it in my pants.
Wow. That's low blow.
I'm teasing you. I don't know.
If I threw that back at you with Victor, you'd have a whole different... What are you not telling us? How repressed are you?
How repressed are you?
Is this really? I want to... Because the problem is I'm going to have to go
Repressed
to...
as that scene with Violet and Galen.
It wasn't repressed at all. It actually was a little bit too free.
Too free.
Have you heard about the Chinese version?
Excuse me.
The Chinese have an astonishing commitment to heteronormativity. Oh yeah, you should see what they've done. It's like the scenes don't make sense anymore.
Interesting.
Which is fascinating because the whole thing about people were like, so the whole Maddie betrayal really came out of nowhere for the Chinese. I thought they were just good friends, and then she turns out to betray her. It's like, oh well, at least you have to applaud the stance there. Just going, we don't care if it doesn't make sense. We won't have any of it.
This place is filled with scrap. Might as well take a look around.
I have no clue if that's loud enough, but I actually want to be able to hear this, so I'm not going to turn it down. Or I should say too loud rather than loud enough. I am not able to move or look around. Oh, okay, I was just locked into a... Alright, we're looking for stuff. I just think this is the kind of thing people used to do back in the day. Back when they used to just like...
Actually give.
Yeah, when they cared about the stuff they were making, it was like, hey, let's make a little extra tie-in. I don't expect that they spent like loads of time doing this. But still, it's like, it's fun that they did that. I can inspect stuff, but can I actually use it? Like, am I not going to use the punching bags? Because she uses those in the show. At least I'm pretty sure. We still haven't come right out and said what this is all about. I've just subjected you to the end. I subjected myself to it a week ago. And I needed that week to be okay.
Yeah,
And I'm assuming you'll be okay now.
I'm more okay. I think only...
Okay, so now I can interact with all the stuff. Well, other than your man crush on Victor, I don't know that you had quite as much. You didn't have as big a dog in the fight.
That may be true initially. I would say during season 1 that's probably true, but season 2 and 3 I feel like I've definitely...
There's no season 3.
But I mean, okay, so then act within the acts, I have felt like I've come around a little bit more. Plus, on the second watching of
the
season
game is
1,
taunting me. Going too slow, then I'm going too fast.
The second watching of season 1, I would say I gathered a little bit more.
We're going nowhere.
Sparks, I assume, means too fast.
Perfect timing.
You gotta acknowledge this is not the same voice. It doesn't have the same emotional range.
That's true.
My shooting gallery won't miss a target or two. Chopper, you're all bolted down. End of the trip.
It's a little more whiny than she is in the...
It's more, and that's how she was in the game, and that's why people have basically said she's vastly improved in the show. For multiple reasons, not just that.
I wonder whether that's part of the reason why we come with a little bit less presupposition to Jinx, which is a possibility as to why we are sympathizers /
You're
fans.
just trying to call yourself, you're trying to ride on my coattails.
No, not at
You're
all.
expecting my obsession to cover for you, and it probably would. But I'm not going to let you know that.
I'm just saying, that may be a part of, like, the people that have played League of Legends may have had a different experience with the
I
show.
knew about her arc, though, so when she first... I knew she was the only character from the game I even was aware of. So when Powder appeared in Season 1, I was like, oh, okay, well, this is obviously... this is presumably her. And then the first time Milo calls her a Jinx, I was like, okay, so this is the backstory. All right, come on. I gotta clean your stuff out of the way? Are there boxes in the way? Or is this just not the way it goes? That was the only character I was aware of. Victor was the one who took me by surprise the most. Because I didn't realize he even was a character. Oh, no, this is... Oh, okay, he can go through the barrel, maybe. And then so not only was I in for a surprise when I found out he was a character, I was also like, he doesn't look anything like he does in the show.
I was surprised that the character that I found to be at least emotionally compelling in Season 1 had a far more depth of
How do I move
story
stuff out of here,
than
then?
I originally assumed. In season 1, it seemed as if
There's
he
tracks going
was
both ways.
definitively and squarely a side character that was just kind of like, he does
I
his
wouldn't
thing.
say that. He and
they
Jace get equal
didn't-
billing.
Well, I would
I
consider.
mean, you
Jace
could
to
argue
be
that they're
kind
all
of a
side characters if you
character,
want to purely argue it based on time on screen.
too. Yeah.
But he gets about as much as Jace or Jinx or any of the others.
I would say the main
In season
thrust
1, there's
of the
actually
show
very
in
little.
Season 1 is Vi and Jinx.
You could argue that, but I'm not sure that's
Season
backed
2
up by the
seemed
time.
it is.
As
As far as
actually a lot less.
consistency of what it's about.
Well, thematically, sure,
Yes.
but I don't think it's the majority of the time.
So, well, that may be
I
true.
mean, it may
but
be a
I'm talking
majority, but not by like
thematically.
massively. It's
But
pretty
I'm
equally
saying-
split.
In season
These
2,
boxes
he
are-
certainly gets far more
What?
focus.
We're getting John out of here!
I don't. Do I need like a build up for be able to launch it further? Because I've got to go it that way, unless I can. Yeah, this control scheme's a little weird. Okay, so I can go this way. I don't know why I would want to, though. Oh, that didn't look like there was a track there, but I guess I'm just not seeing things. Anyways,
Now, Jumpsy, we're
give us your reaction.
Well, I mean, again, the my probably chief feeling is that
let's take it to you.
everything has to end at some point. We've actually made that.
Are you
case
just
that-
hiding your own deep-seated trauma by that? You're going, well, the only reason I'm sad is because it's ended? Because I tried that.
No, it's not about the fact that I'm sad because it's ended. I think it ended. I said this in our previous discussion, but I can't put my finger on anything that they should have
Ooh.
changed. Therefore,
Ooh, that
feel
feels
as
a
though-
little weak.
well,
Picked up a little something from
my argument is if you actually have an issue with something that they've done, you have to actually put your finger on it and say,
Yeah, but
This
that
is
might
what it
also just
is.
be. You could also use that as a way of saying, well, I can't think of anything that they didn't do right, so it must have been fine. But that's like, well, that doesn't always mean that's the case. Sometimes things are a little bit less. Sometimes you're stuck with a kind of lingering sense of something wasn't quite what I was expecting, but I don't know what.
How many cards can fit in my hands?
yeah, I obviously Victor's arc is fantastic.
I agree. I mean, I knew that it was coming.
I was not only pleasantly surprised at, again, the amount of story he actually had, but was actually delighted at the way that they handled it.
Oh, is this really all?
Because it could be archetypal wise, it could be a somewhat messiah-ish archetype, I would say.
little bit Borgish for a messiah.
Sure, but at the same time, nonetheless, that would be the most fitting archetype in my opinion. But I think they handled it in a way that didn't feel like he's still
I guess
very
that's
much
it.
obviously a flawed individual. I think that the concept of him being at war with himself and yet having utter surety in his decisions is a bit of a interesting dichotomy. But it's his story and his whole arc was fantastic. I don't know that I was attached enough to whatever her name is, the mage, that
Mel.
I really had an opinion on.
I didn't care
Her-
that much about her first season. I thought it was interesting though. It was like it actually made her more compelling.
But then I think having again rewatched season 1 right before watching season 2.
Did you do that? I thought about it.
It was.
Although I've seen it. I've seen it
better. I certainly had better appreciation for
Offering for Savika.
Jinx. So
Perfect.
Is that going to be the end? I don't want it to be over yet. From what I gather, this is a very short thing, so it's not really going to soothe any wounds.
Beautiful.
Oh, wow. So it literally ties right into the scene. If anything, but doesn't that more reason, get your shot ready, isn't that more reason to use the same voices if it's going to be literally right into the scene? Okay. Oh, can I keep going? Okay, fun. Well, I guess you can't linger forever. That's what
that's the
that's what it's
moral of
meant
the
to
story.
teach you.
But
They should have made this playable. Come on.
The initial spoilers, obviously, but the
Oh, yes.
initial end at the tail end of Vi and Jinx's story is to end it so positively that everything is sunshine and roses would have felt wrong and not correct, in my opinion. But the way they ended it allowed it to be a bit rogue-like, if I could use that as a term to apply for the actual show, in that she just leaves and that's it. Now, I had to be convinced, to be fair, that she wasn't specifically fully
Because again,
gone.
you're apparently not as desperate as I was.
Well, that's you said it again, not me. I was simply
I
trying to
will
make the
not
case. There is a
deny-
fan base that's with you that is
There's
certainly grasping at
amount.
straws.
It's not grasping at straws. It's very clearly what they intended.
It's a straw. It's an olive straw. They
What?
threw out for you. I was being
What does that even mean?
tongue in cheek about olive branch and a straw. I'm saying it's a straw that they left for you guys to say it's okay. You don't have to go and be depressed.
Well, that didn't stop us.
But at the same time, I would like to
How
certainly
do I go to the next?
clarify that I don't believe I was ever, barring maybe the first 2 episodes of the
Is
show,
this really all I can see
a
here?
Vi champion.
Oh, I would no, definitely not.
But I don't know that I nearly had as much investment in the in Jinx's arc or even story the first time I watched season 1. Now the second time
Again,
I would
you're
argue
heartless.
I did. Okay. Anyway, it's
have
in
no
the
taste
second
in women.
watching I was that may be true.
Apparently, only have taste for sickly Eastern European scientists.
Wow.
You and Niels Bohr would have gotten along.
What?
I'm just throwing random crap at you.
Had to be.
I want to watch the Chinese version. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, it could have that one scene could have gone shorter if you ask me, but I'm sure if you ask some other people, they'd have really insisted, and I don't want to
Probably turn on the light
associate with them.
You know, see and all. Savika for you. Always breaking, never fixing.
Okay, is there an order to this, I assume? What?
Probably have to start them and do them where they're gonna fill, because each one fills at a different time. That one fills the fastest. So do the middle, then the
Okay.
side, then that one. Then start it.
I don't think I did it right. Hey!
Anyway,
There's no chance I'm going to be able to actually say all the things I've been thinking all this week.
So that one song.
I think that's just because you shouldn't say all the things you've been thinking.
I wouldn't have anyways, but I couldn't say the ones that I want to say.
I don't know. I liked the way that
Oh wow, you can actually walk around.
by the end, I liked the way that they
Oh, and this is even
have
wow.
Jinx's arc. I don't know about you, but I didn't feel it was forced at all.
No, I was admittedly.
I thought that the way that they handled her kind of coming back around to Vi was almost entirely because of Vander, which makes sense.
Yes, but the Silco apologist in me took offense. I admit there was a part of me, and this again is, I guess it tells you more about me. I mean, I had my own psychological journey this week, because I was very much in the no, screw him, screw her. I don't like it. So when they're trying to be like, oh, he's back, and I'm like, well, screw him. I don't have any problem with him specifically. I just don't like Vi. So the fact that he's the bridge between you, I'm like, no, burn that bridge. Burn that bridge for all of us. Oh.
Well, but even...
I don't know. There was a part of me that was like, when she refers to her as like her father, I'm like, no, he wasn't. Silco was because you're not Powder. And that means that's when I realized I'm trying to enforce a schizophrenic break upon you. Where you're trying to reintegrate this part of your past, and I'm trying to be like, no! Forget about this part of your past. Don't be a healthier person. Spite your family. That's when I had to do some deep self-reflection. I don't know who this is.
I do think that...
In fact, I don't know who that is either. I thought it was Vander for a second, but it doesn't look like it.
Silco's representation within the positive, picturesque Zahn would disagree with you as far as integration and all that. I mean,
no,
he's saying
literally
forgive,
the point. That's exactly the point. Is as I recognize, we had this conversation, probably even on air, that the best thing that could have happened for the universe of the show would have been for them to reconcile at some point. Because I will still say this. I think. Oh. Were there actually employees here? Oh, right, of course. This is in the future when Silco owned the place. Wow. Okay. This is funny. That I think the first season still remains the most. I don't know who this is. The most psychologically archetypal. In a way, I think there is a lot more. Oh, we had plenty of discussions basically about how Vander and Silco essentially are archetypal. It's basically it's the self and the shadow personified, and neither is actually as well rounded as they would be if they were together. There it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so they said they kept a key, but I can't pick up the key. Am I just not supposed to go that way? I guess maybe I'm not. So, I forget where I was going with that. Psychological types and them. We talked about the fact that the best thing would have been for them to stay together, because essentially that would have been
balanced each other again. It was a
it would have they both together represented one unified ego or self. A shadow and self integrated as opposed to separated. So there he is. There's the dad. And with that twink, no less. I didn't like... I don't know why they would have a portrait together.
It was far more visceral that came out. I think you were surprised at how...
No, I mean, he wasn't a good guy.
These guys were creeps. Strutted around like they owned the place. But everyone knew it was Silco who owned
Okay, see, she agrees with me. Oh, there's a good one. And yet, when the time came for it's like, hey, maybe she can have her own integration. I'm like, no, screw that, because Vi sucks, and she doesn't deserve to have.
Purely Vi that
a little bit. There was a part of me that was just like,
what part of Vi specifically bothered you?
There's I guess a part of me that is, I guess you could call vindictive, where it's a little bit just like, no, you've crossed the line, and I won't let you have it. I won't let you cross it again. You've made your choice, and I will enforce it.
Well, arguably,
despite
she
the
does
fact that
repeatedly, and that Vi then tries to reach out to her again down in the jail cell, and she's like, "No, I'm not doing that." And she was, and I will make the argument.
I see stuff around here.
Words versus your actions say something different.
I think that that's something I don't think
you can see
we ever get enough payoff where it's like, actually, Vise just doesn't care.
But I'm saying not that. I'm saying you can see which father figure actually is most meaningful, in my opinion, to Jinx, because when she
hallucinates,
she always sees Silco, and it's not like he's being demeaning or dismissive. He's giving advice and being like, hey, this is what you should do. I think that her final, hey, I'm gonna release myself from the prison or whatever, was a thought from what she believed to be
it's essentially a misunderstanding of the point, which is psychologically happens, because it was a hallucination, obviously. But
yes, but I'm just saying, so as much as you were frustrated about the fact that she didn't give
I just didn't like that she was
credit to
but I didn't like it in the
Silco,
first season either. Yeah, but I didn't even like it in the first season when she discovers that Vi's alive. She tries. There's the moment when she's sort of in a toss-up where she's just had her spat with Silco, and she's sure if she trusts him, and so she goes to wherever the place is to light the beacon. And is essentially like, well, I'll try this, and if it doesn't work out, then I'll go back. And I was still annoyed at that. Even I was like, no. And I guess that tells you more about me, because I'm like, I don't know why I'm trying to project some sort of a psychic break on you, being like, no, you have to cut ties with these people because they don't deserve you. And that's not my call to make, so I'm not sure why I'm annoyed that this character is making this choice that does make perfect sense. Other than that, I guess I'm like, no, you shouldn't do that. You should just burn all your bridges, and that's probably, again, says more about me.
Oh, there you go.
So when they introduce, Vander's back.
I think you should make everything a glorious revolution.
I used some just like it in my old inventions. Bet they're still in the basement.
Can I? Okay, is that my hint to go to the basement finally? With the key behind the bar that you wouldn't let me pick up? It's one of those types of games.
We have to find out.
You can't take the key until you know you need the key. But so yeah, I admit that I was a little bit resistant to that, but again, that's not the fault of the show. It's really just my own. The show revealed more about me than anything else.
I'll be taking you. Thank you very much.
Because it made perfect. It makes sense. I was just annoyed because I'm like, no, you should maintain your own psychic, discontinuity.
There's nothing in there but ghosts.
I am not in control presently. Oh, okay.
My old friends, right where I left them. Surely one of them's got what I need.
I have a hard time believing this would have been unchanged after all this time.
Mr. Duddy, sorry to report, but you've got just the pen I need. Good thing if I take it, you won't blow up.
How do I get it? Oh, I actually got it. Oh, okay. This is reasonably... I could click on something here a second ago. This opens up. I do not know what I am attempting here. But anyways, I forgot what was my point. Did you ask something? Was I responding to you in some capacity? There we go. There we go.
Jinx 1, Mr. Duddy 0.
Yeah,
I've got everything I need to fix that music box.
I think I especially liked her as a
I loved action.
bit of the.
Loved the silly
I think
voices.
she solidified her role as like the revolutionary figure when she came in at the last scene at the end with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because she stepped into that obviously fairly tentatively when everybody started saying, "Hey, this is who you are," and she was uncomfortable with that notion, partly because of Isha, and then another part because of, I think, the notion that she didn't want that kind of pressure. But what are your thoughts? When's the wedding day, bud?
Trying to make sure I don't miss anything in here because it seems like this would be a place where they'd have a lot of significant interactables. I don't know. I've had obviously more time to sort of dwell on it, and the problem is I haven't. It's one of those things where I have thought about it at just random moments when I've had downtime to just kind of ponder, and so I haven't actually recorded any of my thoughts.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what. I have more to say than I probably can bring across. Because I've also been watching videos about it. I mean, it's essentially I've just been kind of inculcating in it this whole time.
Yeah.
And yeah. It's hard. I don't know how to, because I can't, the timeline even of my perception. It's just because I remember I was actually
Still forgetting
quite,
something.
the ending threw me for a bit until certain details that I had to go to the internet for.
Your lovers are busted. Lucky you.
Because I guess, yeah, since we've already discussed the spoilery option, I think it's pretty obvious that they intend for her to be alive.
See, and you had to do some fighting to convince me of that, and I would say I'm convinced now, but it's not as obvious as you might want it to be.
Oh, certainly not, because I'd have liked it to have been, like, super obvious. But it obviously was not. And I think for artistic reasons, or, you know, who knows exactly why they chose to do it that way, other than, I guess, just for some suspense and drama. But it's also one of those things where when you think about it,
This hook of metal.
it makes sense. I don't think it could have ended any other way.
The disc's gone. It was our favorite song. My favorite song. Zuko must have took it. Locked it away for safekeeping.
Okay, so now I can go into his office, I presume. That'll be something. I guess partially I was a little bit... I struggled with the fact that he was not in it.
Everything's different now.
And so, Silco, at least until the end, I was like, I didn't... Because I'll admit, he was also a major reason I liked the first season. So without him, I was like, okay. And then I felt like they were almost... there was a section in which I sort of felt like, are they deliberately kind of washing him out of the story? Because the thing that I struggled with for a while, in Act 2 actually, it's when, again, it was the whole Vander thing where I was like, this shouldn't matter to you. Again, and by that I'm really saying it shouldn't matter to me, because I don't know why I'm projecting my feelings onto you. But I'm just like, no, the whole dichotomy of you're not Powder anymore, she's Jinx. So why do you care about this person who didn't have anything to do with the life that you are now calling yours? And again, it's like I'm attempting to enforce what is probably an unhealthy coping mechanism, which again makes you go, okay, well, that probably again says more about me. What is... Ooh, okay.
I can't believe I've got my own little fan club, and I'm not even a member.
Neat. This is the kind of stuff I want to see more of, actually. I also, yeah, because I'm never going to be able to actually convey everything. Oh. Is this something, is this Savika wrote this? Oh. Oh no, that was written for her. Okay, see, this is stuff I actually would have liked to have seen. Is this part of that? Okay.
Firelights sure know how to fight. Ken Barons, they just know how to talk. My own sister gassed the streets we grew up in, and Piltus say we're the savage ones.
I don't know. That's also part of the... I do think there's the case to be made that you've mentioned the concept of what is said versus what's done, and I think Vi repeatedly does more questionable things and then attempts to justify them with words, and I'm like, I don't buy it, and I feel like the show buys it more than I do, and I guess maybe that's partially what fuels my dislike, is that the show is more on her side than I feel like it ought to be. Not that it's one-sided, though.
No, I think that they gave...
But they do still... I'm just like, I have no...
They handled everything
truck with you.
very much a precision with each character that doesn't leave it... again, it doesn't tie a nice bow on it, but it does allow you to say, oh, that character actually has both potential for good and potential for, destruction. So I think they do a great job at that. And this is why I say the show, it didn't bother me, the ending, if it would have ended that way. It just was intense and abrupt. And so, not even abrupt, it was intense. And so, once obviously there was any sort of reasonable doubt that maybe there was a possibility that her end wasn't there, it was encouraging to say, hey, this may actually have been her just exit strategy.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I came around in the end. I was like, all right, I'm okay with that, I suppose. Because again, it's like, okay, I don't know. As someone who proclaims, it's like, if this is the character who I find the most compelling, it doesn't make sense that I would be the one trying to be like, but she should be making these decisions that aren't great for her own mental health. She should enforce this grudge and hatred against her family and this resentment. I'm like, well, that's obviously not. I don't know why. It is a moment where I was like, okay, clearly if this is an opportunity, even if I don't, it's like you could, if it's an opportunity for freedom and release, then it's like, well, then okay, great, get out. Because
they kind of set that up with Silco's conversation with her.
Oh, okay, I missed what she said, actually. Hang on. I guess this is why they have this.
Right there. If only I could just blow this up.
Hang on. I don't remember her saying this.
Piltover gets to Mourn, they always have. But in the Undercity, we just move on.
Oh, they're not shying away from the depth, even in this. I wish... I don't know. There's a part of me that wishes he still got more.
Oh, Muggy. May you outlive us all, bud.
Because I don't know. I still have a thing for him as well, I guess.
Same time, every day. You trusted me with your life. Never got the courage to ask why.
I don't know. I am not being able to convey things as well as I thought, given the time I've had to think about them. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here.
Oh, it's a rotary.
Yeah, but I have no clue what it would be. Unless it's something I should find in here. Hang on, there's something.
Just like a Ken Baron to figure out a way to breathe clean air and hoard it for themselves. Silco had dirt on all his associates.
I don't know how this represents that. But okay. I believe it. I don't know, you say something. Save me from whatever spiral I'm in.
I just think they
We went there together.
I still submit that their character development for all of the characters was not easy. They never took the easy way out to just make it flat but understandable. So the complications in each character and even in different scenes, in my opinion, are welcomed, but I don't know that everybody would concur with that.
I don't know. I think I've discovered. I think I am tracking what they're saying here, but I'm not sure.
I know that spot. We went there together.
So that is. I'm guessing if it's a 3-digit code, it's got to be. See, that would be a 9, right? Am I reading that correctly? But then this is the area on the map that was highlighted. 922, would that be the combination? Or is it one of these?
9? You're reading as a 9? I'm seeing as at 1x.
Well, yes, that would be how 9 is, given the rest of these.
Oh, those are Roman numerals. I'm
but
sorry.
then I don't know, but that's not
I
enough
was
numbers.
seeing it as
So I'm guessing 922. This would be if this is like District 9, Section 22 or whatever, and that's where this emotional moment happened. I'm guessing that's the river area where they have their moment. So it would be 9. Okay. Wait. Oh, I had already done 0 before. Never mind. Yay! Wait. That sounded like it opened it, but it didn't. So I guess I am in wrong. That sounded like a thing. I don't know. We're not going anywhere with this conversation, are we? I thought we were going to have a deep another one of those deep. Let's talk about the psychological.
I've said quite a bit.
Well,
I don't.
Too busy grieving. So that's.
I appreciated with Victor's story that.
We went there.
So there's a Japanese concept I think I teased you about before, in that the way that it's pronounced in Japanese is hilarious, but
That's
the term wabi-sabi literally means perfection and imperfection, and the idea of that being Victor's arc, and understanding that the thing that all of his flaws are in fact what made him the best at understanding people's pain and all of that. I think that is a pretty awesome arc. I think that also on the flip side of that coin, the idyllic
That's
picture that
I
Jace
recognize
has
the
being
place where Silco
So it is the river.
Silco.
And where is it though?
being
That's
a little bit more brought down to
Oh,
earth, I suppose, and going,
okay.
yeah,
So
you can't,
937.
like, not everything is sunshine and roses, pal. Like,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
that was helpful.
Yeah, I appreciated that, but even still, it's like, okay, I appreciate it on a mental level. I don't know that I was as like, oh, I feel it emotionally though. I don't know why.
No, that one was less.
Because I agree with the fundamental philosophy. It's like, well, yeah, if you could, essentially, free will is the only thing that makes good, and because that's his whole point at the end of the second act, is he's saying that which inspires our greatest good is also the cause of our greatest evil. It's like, well, that's true. You can't have one without the other. So to eradicate the emotion or the choice or whatever it is he describes as being the problem, it's like, well, that eliminates the capacity for wrong, but it also eliminates any reason for living at all.
Vander and Silco used them back in the day.
Oh, so this is that spot. Okay, so this is how we found that area in the show.
Can't bring myself to read all this. Not now.
Oh, wow. Wow. I like it. This one's got a whole lot more of the depth to it. Is that everything in there? Oh, no.
Is that...
Wow.
Huh? I look so much like her.
One could argue that it's okay that she still obviously has, you know, a appreciation for Vander because she never had bad experience with him.
Yeah.
And then
Again, that's why I acknowledge it's my own baggage. I'm
and then
bringing
to
into
say,
that,
obviously,
probably.
on a being an audience member where you see the broader picture that the characters can't see, the fact that Vander and Silco were essentially brothers, you go,
The one we danced to! Me! You! Bye. Even after all she's done. All we've both done. Guess it's time for a family reunion. Hope she doesn't try to kill me.
I think we found everything. I don't exactly want to move on yet, but I'm pretty sure that we were pretty comprehensive. So allegedly, because this one was only released back last week when the final act dropped, and this is supposed to take place at the beginning of this last episode, after her conversation with Echo. So there may be even more significant depth in this. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's all very...
I've said more than you.
You have. I've been engaged, but this was more involved in this than I thought.
Guess up, Jinx. Clock's ticking up on topside. You gotta save their skins. All you need is the gun to do it with.
Whoa, okay.
Now stay. A mega gun needs a mega power source. Just what I need. Except their fuel capacity is underwhelming. Suppose I could give them an upgrade. Must not pop bubbles.
Oh boy. Ah! Oh. Was it this one?
Yeah, center top.
Powered up fuel source.
Jeez, we paid more attention to this than any other game we've ever done.
Our cooling system. Now, where to find one?
Well, we're still, like you said, we're
Yeah.
trying to extend
Trying to
the
grieve.
life of.
Isn't my biggest fan? Come here. Fortune cookie guy wanted to help. Back to my
I keep.
hotel. What's his name?
I didn't.
Guess I need to give him one. Hector. Marvin. Bobo. I'll workshop it.
I skipped over the one she was talking about. What's his head?
Go back. What did she say?
Oh, that's right. I can do that. That's not saved. Oh, here we go.
Fortune cookie guy wanted to help, but he lost his way.
Well, true. That's what she called Victor. Well, we'll probably end up talking about this for a year like we did the last time.
Give me one of these.
I'm actually...
Echo and his number 2. The guy can pack a punch. Never understood the whole mask thing. If I'm shooting ya, I want you to know it was me.
I'm curious then about... Because, I mean, this is where I suppose the real meat of any form of artistic questioning or criticism or analysis comes from. But why is it various arcs appeal to various people?
Time to do what I do best.
Why is it that you're more drawn to Victor's arc? And is it a visceral thing? Is it a mental thing?
Time for a trial run.
I think initially what drew me to his character was the emotional content without warning. Where it's just like,
That's odd.
That's how life works. Where it's just like,
Okay.
emotion is thrust upon you to a degree.
Gotta get rid of all this hot air.
And then
Maybe there's some sort of something near the furnace.
the other thing I think is
I
that
figured I was going to have to do something with this eventually.
That looks perfect for my gun.
his
Oh, better make sure it's all clear. Gas.
his altruism maybe was an initial thing that drew me to his character. Was yes, it was birthed out of his desire to fix his own issues as well, but the reality was he wanted to make that far more global, and it doesn't come off the same way that it does with Jason. I don't know why, because it's not.
Well, because Jace
It's
had
not
a bit of a...
J-
he turned into a bit of a glory boy, kind of.
Yeah,
He got caught up in his own...
and I think
And that's even what Victor calls him out on.
because the reality is it's a bit like a technology company releasing free stuff and just saying we're going to put this out because it
Did I not
is
do
going to
it?
better society in general. It's like that to me, that kind
Doesn't
of
make a difference.
that kind of valuing of
There we go.
the broader.
Big Boomy, prepare for your final piece. No, that name's not gonna stick. He's so beautiful. Brings a tear to my eye. You've got a real temper on you, Rhino. Rhino! That's an
Oh, so there's more.
Yeah, I think that's what probably was the other part that was.
It's awfully... It doesn't... Okay, but why does that appeal to you on a personally?
sort of
It's like, yeah, life happens sometimes like that, but why is that? That's just an observation about life. That's not an observation about, like, here's why it matters to me.
No, but the character, the way that he responds to it is to...
What are they even meeting about? Treehouse interior design?
The idea that he turns that part of his story, that tragedy, into a motivation to
Our first prototype launched right off the ramp and into the sump. The next one we made waterproof.
not make it worth it, but it's a little bit like you're living to further or to it's not a make proud kind of a thing. It's more a...
This is who I'm doing it for, huh?
The motivation...
Past and present. And the future
to...
worth fighting for. All right.
Say your pain becomes a motivation for your progress forward. That's what Victor's story is, in my opinion. Because his pain with his own weaknesses is a frustration that causes him to then get into science. His pain within that whole narrative of it's like you can't even say losing somebody you loved, because I mean obviously they weren't a thing inherently, but I mean they kind of had a thing.
Not really. She had a thing for him. He didn't seem to requite that at all.
But I wouldn't say he rebuffed her. It was just
He
more like
sort of. He
distracted.
kind of. Well, okay, but that's basically rebuffing. I mean, if that's,
I guess.
I don't know that that's much different.
I think also looking at him having the realization that there are more important things in life, and that whole arc was fascinating, because initially when he becomes kind of pseudo enlightened or whatever, it's like, hey, there's more important things and I can fix everything, and then once he realizes that even within itself is a maybe misguided pursuit, and that's where you get to the whole there's perfection in imperfection, and I go, yeah, I mean that's what makes us human.
But is that all purely philosophical?
Yeah, I mean I appreciate
does that hit you in the gut, or is that just like, oh wow, that's an important message?
Oh no, that definitely hits me in the gut. That's very much.
I don't know why because I can agree with it entirely on the philosophical front. I'm like, yeah, of course. I think it's a potent message. I think it's a very it's even, you know, I think Thomas Aquinas would be proud of the what is it, the exoneration of free will above else. It's like, yeah, that is what makes good possible, and it's also what makes evil possible, and it is. A universe without it would be dead, effectively.
Yeah. Certainly what gives us our uniqueness. And then you see, I think it's because he encapsulates, he is the...
they've walled me off. I can only see some part of this.
He is the... Yeah, again, he encapsulates all of the flaw that is going on in the show on a broader level. Because
yes,
there's more specifics to Jinx's, you know, kind of
but in some ways that's what
and-
makes it less personal, I can't help but feel.
What do you mean?
Well, if because of the fact that it's on a more broad universal scale, it doesn't feel quite as individual.
But that's why it is. That's why it affects me the most, because I am a kind of person who believes that in everybody there's that tension and that struggle, and so to look at everybody through that lens is how I live my life.
I don't know. It's...
I mean, mean, what was... I have obviously some idea already, but like, what was your specific draw to... Because I know that initially you said, "Oh, Silco's really cool," but you clearly have a specific draw to Jinx.
No, it was them together specifically, and I think
Yeah,
the
but
reason it was
more
them
than
together
that-
specifically is, if I may play a psychological hand here, I just found that it mimics the fact that essentially it's I don't know, it's a very nested thing, because I think the way in which Silco seeing in Jinx a sort of, or I guess Powder at the time he finds her, a version of himself that he considers that he sort of outgrew or overcame or something. He sees in her the vulnerable state he had previously been in and since overcome, and so he tries to help her do the same thing. It's like, and I don't know, something about that. That's why it was them together more than it was Jinx specifically on her own.
Yeah, but you have a pretty hard grudge against Vi and things like that.
There's definitely an element of me. There's definitely no. I wouldn't even say that. I think it's actually, there is a part of me that is definitely quick to the burn the bridge. You've crossed the line and you don't get it back ever. And even as I discovered in the second season, to the point of,
always been that way?
I don't know, probably not. I don't know if that's the kind of thing you remember. I don't know. I don't know if that's the kind of thing that you remember the exact moment.
I'm just saying.
But it's just, I do. That's genuinely, and that's something even the second season made me realize.
That's all I'm asking.
Life itself.
Life itself.
But it's like but the second season then made me realize, okay, that's an impulse that actually, on one hand, there's a part of me that says it does save you a lot of BS, because the one thing I've never related to is what is commonly a trope in like young adult kind of novels that I used to read when I was in high school, where it's like, oh, I'm in this friend group that are all terrible and rude to me, but otherwise I'd be alone, and so that's why I'm in this. I've never related to that at all. I'm like, no, you're terrible people. I don't need you.
That's true.
I would rather be alone than be diminished by you.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely a part of me that says, if you're gonna infringe on, I guess, I don't know what, my own self-respect, my own dignity, my own borders or whatever, that I'm quick to just be like, no, done. And on one hand, that protects you from corruptive, sort of manipulative influences. But it also does mean, clearly, as I've had to sort of analyze in the second season, it's like, okay, clinging to that when it would also be for the betterment to rekindle certain connections. It's like, okay, well, that's something that I found to be rather a challenging notion, where it's like, yeah, I'd rather, I, projecting through Jinx, would rather you suffer simply to spite this person who's wronged you than to just get over that for the sake of your own betterment. Because it's like, well, it might, be better for me, but if it means giving you what you want, I won't do it. It's like, well, that's probably an unhealthy trend. So I don't know. Perhaps it speaks to some repressed trauma I'm unaware of.
Or you're just vindictive.
Well, that probably is a part of it. If that's the case, I'm not suggesting that's a separate thing. So I don't know. I think it was. I would just say it's something compelling, where it's like I resonate with the depiction of the character and the arc of the character, and I think that's partially why season 2 threw me, because I was almost, in some ways, season 1 is a coping arc. It doesn't lead to a resolution. It just sort of leads to here's a way to get by. Yeah, that's what Silco essentially is. It's like, here's how to survive your trauma. Here's how to survive that and use it as sort of fuel. But it doesn't ever actually result in a destination you want to be. It's just sort of a fuel for your own bitter diatribe.
Yep.
And then but there was a part of me that was like, yeah, bitter diatribes all around. And there was a part of me that wanted season 2 to be like, yeah, I wanted Jinx and Savika to team up and basically be the new top of the Undercity. It's like, no, we're going to lead the revolution. And I would have been okay with that if it had been entirely one-sided. It's like, no, yeah, screw all the rest of you. And then when it tries to actually be like, no, let's have a healing, restorative arc, I'm the one sitting here going, no, burn it down. So anyways.
Are you gonna finish it?
No, yeah, I did. I was just wandering around because I thought there might be more to look at, but there isn't. They've walled me off from all that stuff over there. I don't know. This is kind of fun and interesting. The second one probably had the most oomph. Again, maybe that's just me because it was all about Silco again. But yeah. I actually found there was a video that I didn't watch. I do this a lot where I'll see a thumbnail of a video and be like, oh yeah, I get it. So I have no clue if they made the argument I'm about to presume they made. But they said the title of it was Echo was the true hero of Arcane. And I was like, I can kind of get there. And in the thumbnail they had the Boy Savior title that he originally had. And I was like, you know what? I'll admit I think he probably earned that. Because part of the reason I didn't like him as much in the first season is that he felt a little bit... he didn't do much, and he felt kind of self-righteous. It's like, you haven't done enough to be this pretentious, dude. It's like, yeah, you've got your little community of outcasts, but what have you actually achieved?
Notice the minute that he does start doing more, then it comes with the humbleness of the awareness of how much it costs.
Yeah, and then so I think when it's like, arguably, you could say the third act, you could maybe even be as specific as to say episode... now I'm forgetting which one was which. When he comes back to save Jinx, it's like that's when he officially earns the title.
Yeah.
Because now it's not just an abstract, I'm opposed to corruption and whatever. And he even acknowledges it where it's like, I got so hung up in the ways things weren't right that I gave up on certain things. I gave up on you. Because it's like, but then he actually says, no, I'm going to save not just this sort of abstract notion of things being better, but I'm going to save a specific person who needs help.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, I think he's earned my respect finally.
Yeah. And in doing so, arguably saves the rest of humanity.
Yeah, well, I mean, technically, if anything, he definitely he prevents whatever the heck Victor was about to do.
Right.
Whatever kind of quickening he was going to enact. So, yeah. I don't know. Psychological analysis is all around deep. And that's what I liked about the first season, too, is it's just like because it's so richly... I don't know what the word would be. It's so deeply real, in a sense, and it feels very... I mean, human feels like a generic term, but it's like it feels like there's nothing that's very flat or just caricature. It's like, no, it's all very fleshed out, very realistic, and very human.
Yeah,
and so that's why you can see different people see themselves in different parts of it. And so I don't know what part of me, I don't know what the appeal is, other than that I guess there's some sort of resonant inner psyche that I connect with. And whatever that says about me, I don't know. Or you.
Well, the Victor story, I would like to point out that when Jinx goes off the rails, she certainly obviously causes chaos. But then Victor's like, all right, when the line's crossed for me, everyone's getting eviscerated.
He doesn't do that.
I know, but it's like basically
you're going to be forcibly enlightened. It's Taoism by force.
So maybe that's really at the core of who I am. I just like to force my will on everyone else.
Okay, then. Sounds like you've got something even more deep-seated going on.
Anyway. Yes. I want to tear down the barriers of every city. And let me drive freely without dividers.
What?
It's a hang-up I've had for a long time, but it's again about people trying to be pushed into paths like cattle. I just find it to be, the whole notion is disgusting.
Wow. Now you're starting to sound like him even.
All right, well,
Yeah.
That's it.
Have you said everything you want to say?
basically.
I haven't. I don't know, because I've been thinking about it. I've had all these various, like, strands of thought where it's like, oh, I appreciate this part of this arc and how it ties into that, and I haven't barely touched on any of it. It's very well written. And I think we never even touched on the sort of mild controversy that was stewing of some people thinking, oh, this one's not quite as good as the first one, and it's feels rushed, is what some people said. And I could kind of get behind it, and I think Jinx's arcs are the most like that, where it's like, okay, she goes from trying to kill her family to now they're back together, and then, oh no, now she's trying to kill herself, and now they're back together. It's like, okay, on the first viewing, it does feel very roller coastery, and that's probably she isn't not a manic
She's
depressive
fairly
character. So
transient.
that level of volatility is actually kind of
Yeah.
in the territory. But also they do actually, when you watch it more than once, they do give the seeds of the various swings. And that's one of the reasons I've been watching a lot of people's analysis of it, is because I think you just, when you break it down in scene by scene type things, you do see each of the little moments that once you recognize them, it makes more sense, and you start to see, oh no, I get how this arc happens, how you get from one to the other. That doesn't mean I wouldn't mind seeing it more in depth. I think if there's anything that deserved more time, it would have been the conversation between Jinx and Echo before they finally show up at the end. Before literally whatever conversation precedes this final scene we've just been playing, I think that would have been worth seeing.
Yeah.
But it would have probably been hard to write. But then again, they've written complicated and gripping moments before, so they couldn't. It's not like they couldn't have done it. But I don't know. It's very good and very deep and very traumatic.
Yeah, I don't know that
You clearly weren't, given your
don't-
lucidity, you weren't clearly as catatonic as I was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I disagree.
I just hide it well. This is catatonia. Because I literally sat in this chair for about an hour after the credits were rolling, and I was just sitting here going,
Well,
I don't know what I feel.
somebody to unpack this with. I mean, if I would have just watched it, I would have been sitting by myself going, I'm not okay. Like, the only thing that made me okay was when you walked me through the whole, this is actually why.
Well, but see, now that you're acting like, you're not okay that she died. I'm like, well, why would you care if you're not?
You're acting like I didn't like Jinx. You're so funny.
Well, you don't as much as I do.
I agree. I'm not in love with her.
You don't have an unhealthy fixation. Except with Victor.
You're so weird.
You're throwing the same shade at me.
Anyway.
I'll throw it right back, even if it doesn't stick.
I don't know. It is one of the few shows, again, that just has good writing and good. The whole show, as far as the people involved, when it comes to the artists, I've said this before, but the music, and I said it when we were watching this last bit, that is in congruence with the scenes are insanely precise and so intentional. And the way in which they use score to craft the moment is sometimes almost too good. Like in the case of that scene that went too long.
Yeah, it did.
Where it's just like, I feel uncomfortable right now.
Yeah, I was just going, okay, we get it. There was a part of the fan base that really wanted this, but were they the ones that needed to be catered to right now? But again, even then, I'm going to rail against Vi some more. Don't take that out of context.
I was about to say.
But I'm literally, there's a part of me that still goes, okay, your sister, I mean, I guess she didn't say outright, I'm going to kill myself. She did heavily imply it, though. She's basically going, give up on me because I'm giving up on me. And then as soon as Caitlin shows up and lets her out of the cell, she's like, I'm more interested in your getting in your pants than my sibling who may or may not be attempting suicide 5 times as we speak. So it's like, again, it just goes to show that people try to talk, oh, but she cares. And I'm like, except she doesn't act on that care ever. She's like, yeah.
Well, the argument could be made that Vi is certainly not the one who's defending and protect. People act like, oh, with Powder, back when it was Powder, it was like Vi was protecting her from all the stuff. I'm like,
she was protecting her from, I think that's why.
She was protecting herself, arguably,
well,
and then when you
protecting her family and thus protecting herself.
But then in
protecting herself from loss. It's the same thing.
Well, not even just that. Like, it was image. Again, she was upset that
it was
Powder wasn't
image.
Specifically rising to the occasion on all the things
she wasn't
that they
upset.
had to. But then you go from the point that Powder makes the mistake. It's like
it's a bit of a. I do think it's sort of a control freakish issue where it's like I can't let you come along because if something happened, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. It's like, well, then that's about you. Yeah. It's not about I want you to be safe because surely to be safe would be we should all be together, and then we'll just not let you do anything. So I don't know. I mean, this was certainly more the case in Season 1. I think it's still the case in Season 2 where it's like her words and actions still don't quite line up.
Yeah.
Where she's always saying she wants to help her and protect her and then is instantly like, well, no, I won't. And even then, I think it's also worth noting, because again, this was a sticking point for some people in the first season when there's several interpretations of the final episode of the first season where some people, and I tend to take the argument that's more Jinx had kind of already made up her mind before gathering everyone in the final table scene, where it's like it was not so much who am I going to be, but rather are you going to accept who I already am?
Right.
And people were going, yeah, but, of course she would have. She just didn't get the chance. And, I saw some people arguing, it's like, well, Jinx's perspective on acceptance, quote unquote, is basically what Silco gives her, which is essentially free reign. He never imposes any kind of standard or even basic safety concern. And so she's thinking, well, unless you do that, unless you enable my psychosis or my mania, then I won't view you as seeing me for who I am. It's like, I don't think that's a fair criticism. But then Season 2 puts that to bed where she's like instantly, no, yeah, she's gone and Jinx is all that's left. And that is an explicit admission that Jinx is not your sister. You at the table scene when you thought you were going to try and restore something is you were essentially trying to get Powder back out, which is precisely why it didn't work. I said this even back then where it's like, I still should write, it feels like it's too late, but I still should write the one video essay idea I had about how people both out of the show and even some people in the show conflate the Jinx Powder dynamic with the sort of Darth Vader thing where it's like, no, it's just a mask. It's a persona you've crafted that isn't the real you, and the real you's in there and we have to just get it out. And it's like, well, that's precisely why it doesn't work. Luke successfully gets Anakin out of Vader because Vader was a mask Anakin didn't want to wear. He just didn't feel like he could take it off, both physically and literally and figuratively. Whereas it's like, no, Powder doesn't want to be Powder anymore. And there's a slight wrench thrown in Season 2. She doesn't really want to be Jinx anymore either, which so...
It's not that she doesn't want to be. I think Jinx just actually learns better who she is.
Yeah, and arguably, again, we've already established... you can't exactly use the game as justification for interpreting this show, because clearly they don't line up perfectly. But like, she's still called Jinx in the game. Presumably she keeps that name. It's not like she's going to give herself a new third identity.
Yeah.
It's presumably Jinx is just learning. She's going to remain Jinx, but not limit herself by what she thinks that means.
Right.
And so anyways, that's just, I appreciated that. It's like literally in the first act, we just get confirmation of what I already knew, which is like, no, if I can't accept this. And she's not interested in really doing much about it. She's interested in getting in her pants. So anyways. Well, you could talk about it forever.
We've burned all the bridge.
How many episodes did we talk? Because there were several consecutive episodes in which it was like that was basically all we talked about the first time. So who knows if that's what's in store now? But
I'm sure for you it will be.
I don't know that there is as much of the archetypal depth as the first one.
Maybe not.
Because I mean, archetypes become less clear when the characters become more nuanced and more.
Yeah, that's true.
More, what's the word? Idiosyncratic. Because an archetype is a sort of broad extrapolation, whereas the more specific a character gets, the more they become distant from the archetype.
Yeah.
And so I think as these characters develop, you get increasingly clearer resolution on their uniqueness, which sort of distances them from an archetypal nature. So I don't know that you could have as many conversations like the ones we had talking about Stilko and Vander and the benevolent king and the usurping uncle and all these various Jordan Peterson topics. But there is definitely lots of narrative analysis and psychological analysis. I will recommend the channel I've been watching a lot of called it's called My Little Thought Tree, which is a strange name. But I first actually found him.
Say something like My Strange Addiction.
No. I first found him actually, and this is tying back into another thing you should watch that's really good, when he did an analysis, because he's a therapist, I should clarify, and he did an analysis of Good Will Hunting, which you still need to watch. And that was the first thing I ever saw, and I was like, oh, this guy's cool. And then apparently he had not seen Arcane originally, which is why I never saw his videos the first time. So he's done all of his videos about everything recently. So I've been binge watching his, because it's fascinating. But yeah, plenty more to discuss on that front, I'm sure. Need to go cry in the corner now.